Good morning and welcome. Thank you, Michael. That's my favorite song, especially for Flower Communion. Welcome, everybody, for a beautiful day. I'm Suzanne Bjorner, in case you don't remember. Okay, you haven't seen me in person. And I am pleased to be here today celebrating the Flower Communion and several other events. Okay. I have a few announcements. You saw, of course, the announcements are in the email that you get on Thursday, and they were attached to, or in the email with the program, and the one that reminded you to bring flowers. I'm not going to read them all, but I do want to remind you that Pride, which you've been reading about for several weeks now, the Pride Parade and celebration is this Saturday, and MJ Pearson is the person to contact. She has arranged, of course, to have the exhibit, the booth, and so on. And I thought you might be interested to know, MJ has some challenges with mobility. Diane Benedict's husband is helping her this time with setting up the exhibit booth and taking it down. Next Sunday, we're all going to meet here at 10:45, our regular time. It will be a streamed service from the General Assembly in Pittsburgh, but we do meet here in the sanctuary at 10:45. And finally, I wanted to mention the Festival of Faiths, which is taking place in Cincinnati-wide Festival of Faiths on August 27th. If you were here last week, or if you listened to the recording of the program last week, you heard Chip Herod talk about the Festival of Faiths and what a wonderful ceremony it is to bring all sorts of faiths together. That will be taking place on Sunday, the 27th, and then there are other activities that continue through the week. He thought that we had not participated very much in the last years. It's only the 6th year. But MJ assured me that, yes, indeed, we have in a way, because the UU Council of Churches citywide has had a booth, and they continue to have and have paid for a booth this year. So we are all invited down to help staff that booth and to talk to other people about UU-ism and what it means to us, and the variety of places that we have in Cincinnati to celebrate our Unitarian Universalist faith. We have a good turnout here, but I think we probably have a few people on Zoom too. And Alan, do we have other people? Okay. Dottie, Sarah is there, and I can't see. Good. And Ruth, hello, Ruth. Okay. I understand, Dottie, that it's your birthday today. 94 years for Dottie Tabor. Congratulations.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dottie. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you all. And now it's my pleasure to turn this over to Sue Klein, who is going to lead us through the rest of the service.
Thanks, Suzanne. This has been a fun collaboration with Suzanne. I do have some information to share in opening words, and this is just the facts, ma'am. Okay, this year we honor the 100th anniversary of the first flower ceremony, or flower communion, to celebrate the blessings of diversity, the beauty of freedom and dignity and the power and strength of the religious movement founded by Norbert and Maya Chopek. This is a movement that continues to thrive today. This year, we also remember and celebrate the date in 1865 when slaves in Galveston, Texas finally got word that Abraham Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation 2 years earlier. These people were finally free, and free to live independently from the shackles of an oppressive and racist system that benefited from their labor. Juneteenth, now a federal holiday since 2021, only 2 years ago, is an acknowledgement of the progress of liberation and freedom, and sadly, a reminder that we are not finished. And today, the third Sunday in June, is our annual celebration in the U.S. of fatherhood, a tradition initiated only in 1908 in West Virginia, where people gathered to remember and honor the 362 men who died in an explosion in the Fairmont Coal Company mines. The tradition caught on in other states, and by the end of World War II was a national institution. In 1972, President Richard Nixon declared it a national holiday. Father's Day is celebrated, I believe, in 111 countries. In many of those that have a church foundation, Father's Day is celebrated on March 19th, which is the feast of St. Joseph. So, let us begin our service giving thought to remembrance of those people and those rituals that have gone before, to what it really means to be emancipated, and to celebrate the men in our history and in our own lives who have modeled the value and values of fatherhood. So I'm going to ask Linda if she will please light the chalice for us.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Okay, now is the time to prepare our hearts and minds for all we will experience this morning. If you have something on your heart or mind that is pressing on you, feel free to drop a prayer stone in the front water bowl or in a water bowl in your home. If you have not brought a flower for today's flower service, please feel free to pick one up from one of the vases that are on the table over here. Thank you, Michael. May all those intentions that we have on our hearts and minds be brought to our community intention during our service this morning. Now we have an opening hymn, Mother Spirit, Father Spirit. It's number 8 in your hymnal. I don't know this. I'm hoping Michael will make it known. Stand if you are willing and able, and let us sing together.
Yeah, this is an old favorite, right? I mean, you used to sing this all the time. I kind of forgot about it until this week. I'll play it once through, though, so you guys, but the tune is really easy to follow along with. You'll be fine.
Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, where are you? In the sky song, in the forest sounds your cry. What to give you, what to call you, what am I? Many drops are in the ocean, deep and wide. Sunlight bounces off the ripples to the sky. What to give you, what to call you, who am I? I am empty, time flies from me, what is time? Dreams eternal, fears infernal haunt my heart. What to give you, what to call you, oh my God. Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, take our arms, take our breath and let our voices sing our parts. Take our hands and let us work to shape our art.
It's lovely. I think it's the first time I've heard it or sung it. Okay, let us remain standing as we are able to recite our unison affirmation. We pledge to create a welcoming community that celebrates human diversity, encourages spiritual growth, fosters responsiveness to our world, and commits to the future of all children. And at this time, we will gather together our flowers and to create a diverse beauty here on the table. So Suzanne will stand and help to receive the flowers. If you have something you'd like to say about your particular donation to the vase, the microphone is right here. Please do so. Okay?
There we go. All right, so I guess I'll go first since I'm going to play piano during this. So these are just some flowers from my front yard. They're wildflowers. We didn't plant them, but I really like these guys here, these lamb's ear flowers, because the bees, we have more bees than anyone on the entire street. The bees love these guys, so yeah.
We'll add them after it gets a little bit more stuff to hang over the ceiling.
Well, you'll hear it all again. This flower reminds Susanna of me of a beautiful garden in Mexico, and it's called Bird of Paradise, and it's a little bit out of season, but still a beautiful flower.
Well, it's not a matter of beautiful. It's not a matter of
Okay. This flower was given to me this morning as I arrived flowerless, but it is in honor of the beautiful flowers that surround my house this summer. And I have them because a friend gave them to me and planted them. And they are beautiful because my daughter-in-law and my grandson come over, I will say religiously, to make sure that they are watered and beautiful, and I can still be surrounded by my beautiful garden.
Thank you.
Use this one now. This one should be good now.
Oh, the flower I put in is a daisy, which the big significance is it's sort of a symbol of our neighborhood where we live, because my neighbor across the street felt that I needed some flowers in my yard, and so he came over and planted them for me so I would have some flowers. Because I don't know if everyone here knows, but all my neighbors know, I don't do gardening.
Oh, flowers, flowers. I love them. I love them. And have as many as I possibly can get planted or someone else help plant. And so it's lovely to recognize them. Thank you.
Where would we be without Mary Lou's flowers all these years?
Yes, all these lovely flowers up here are, most of them are from Mary Lou's garden, and it's always so nice that she shares them with us. These flowers, however, are from my garden, and I don't know what they are, but I love the bright yellow color, and I am putting 2 of them in here in memory of my father and mother, both of who are very special to me, and for some reason I've been thinking about them a lot lately.
Thank you, Betsy.
Okay.
Like General, I don't do gardening, and unfortunately my neighbors were not so generous as his. So I was trying to figure out where I was going to get a flower. I thought about driving over to Mary Lou's house and snitching one, but I finally decided to go to Kroger's and I bought these cyclamens. So I'm very happy to be here. I've never been to a flower communion before, So I'm looking forward to this service. Thank you.
We picked these up at Kroger. The only thing we have blooming right now, we've only got a few of them, are well, we've got cannas, but they're huge, and then we've got lilies that, very few lilies that the deer have not yet eaten, and I didn't want to bring them only because the deer have been having so much fun with them.
And I brought these just in case.
These are the very last blooms. Everything else was dead.
Thanks to the sales, I have a flower to share.
This is our first flower ceremony too, and I think it's just lovely. But it seems so appropriate for me because I grew up on a farm. My dad was an adamant farmer, and he always planted flowers among the vegetables. One reason was because he loved flowers, but if you ask him why, he would always tell you to remind him every day, I'm going to get choked up just talking about it, of the beauty within the hard work. So, thanks.
He was a special guy, too. Really miss him.
Thank you.
So I have two flowers, and one I'd like to put in for Paul, who is waiting for us out in the Quinby room. And the second one, which is a hydrangea, it's about impermanence. We've taken out the big grass and put in hydrangeas, so that's impermanence. This is lavender, and I've always loved lavender. There's something about it that just makes me feel good. And I got this year on our trip to Michigan, I got some more Grasso lavender plants at the Holland, Michigan Farmers Market, and farmers are wonderful. I'm just writing a memoir, and part of it about my summers on the farm with my great uncle and aunt, which was my favorite.
Placing this flower as a tribute to Anne. Like General, I am not a gardener. We happen to have a beautiful garden, and it's all due to Anne. And my biggest fear is that when I retire in 2 weeks, Anne is imagining a second career as a gardener. So I may have to find something else to do. I did this, I was thinking about this morning, and I looked for a dandelion, and I couldn't find one in our yard. And, I think it got me thinking about who gets to say what's a flower and what's a weed? Who gets to say what's normal, what's abnormal? Who gets to say who's privileged, who's not privileged? So I think as a UU, we all agree that we really ought to treat everybody as flowers, and that's why this ceremony is special.
Our story is only that we live in an apartment, so we obviously don't have a garden. We had a garden once upon a time, but not anymore. And so these are Kroger. And I will tell you that we cheated a bit because I could have bought some that were beautiful that were $10 or $15. These were part of a little bundle of leftovers for $3.57.
I've brought a sunflower, which is one of my very favorites. It says summer to me, but this particular one I'm putting here in honor of the strength and resilience of the people of Ukraine. Sunflowers are one of their major crops, and a field of sunflowers is a spectacular sight indeed.
Anybody else? Mel? Okay. Well, I also got a bird of paradise. And I was hoping that if I waited long enough, it might come to season. These do bloom in Mexico, where we spend a lot of our time on bushes, and they're absolutely gorgeous. I have beautiful pictures. They come in January and February. And I was just thrilled when I found a florist who could get one for me, and she actually got two, but something got lost in how I was supposed to peel them, I think. So anyway, you know, all of us, they are representing all people, and some of us have gone through various seasons too, and some of us have better seasons to come, perhaps. So let's think of it that way.
Thank you, everyone. Isn't this beautiful? So here we are. It's a beautiful day. We're together. We celebrate our progressive religion's history. We acknowledge not only the event of emancipation of those held in slavery in this country, but also the very real, very urgent need to keep working to eradicate the system and sin of racism in our country. And we celebrate our fathers, our fatherhood, the meaning of rich and honest and loving masculinity. Before continuing, I want to acknowledge that today's message and ceremony have been a team effort. Suzanne Bjorner and I have worked together on this service. I'm extremely grateful for all the work that Suzanne has done throughout the year. I'm also grateful for Zoom and the internet, because Suzanne has accomplished a great deal of this from Mexico. Suzanne did nearly all the research for today's message and consistently manages all the details. Without her, today would be very different. So thank you, Suzanne. I also want to acknowledge that my comments about the history of the UU flower ceremony are taken largely from an article by Teresa and David Schwartz. Okay, most of you know me. It's difficult for me to shed my own well-known attitude of cynicism toward history, political realities, capitalism, life in the United States, the state of equality and equity that we have or have not achieved, and the relative meaningfulness of various holidays. I'm trying, however, to examine the intentions and meaning behind the establishment of these rituals and holidays. Let us consider Father's Day, a bit of a twin and perhaps an afterthought of Mother's Day. Both began from the grassroots to celebrate the unique qualities of the people who fill these important roles. And although both have been enthusiastically fostered and sponsored, by the industries and merchants who stand to benefit from them, let us not forget that the roles of father and mother are sacred. No responsibilities are more important to our society than those of parents. And for all the stories we hear of bad fathers, neglectful fathers, cruel fathers, even murderous fathers, there are so many more stories of loving, responsible, devoted, and selfless fathers. Let us today celebrate those men we know and have known who have loved us, given to us, taught us, put up with us, and contributed to whom we have become. And let us in some way, as we are able, extend love and forgiveness to those who have hurt or disappointed us. And how do we, as white people who have participated in and continue to benefit from systems that continue to oppress our brown sisters and brothers, how do we celebrate emancipation? I believe Juneteenth is for us a reminder of what remains to be done. As Unitarian Universalists, how do we celebrate Juneteenth? Some people go to Juneteenth festivals, as we see on Facebook, and I was so happy to see that. This little spider is trying to get there. Anyway, I'm sorry. How do we bring our high-minded and oh-so-beautiful principles of acceptance, respect, equality, inclusion, and love into a reality for all people? I believe we need to be emancipated from our sense of entitlement, which is born from our oppressive systems that have existed since before this country was founded. We need to be emancipated from our attitudes of superiority, our closely held and hoarded wealth, our hunger for power. This is an inside job. We cannot be emancipated. We must emancipate ourselves. How do we learn the joy of true emancipation? How do we share in the joy of those slaves who in 1865 thought their lives of disrespect, hatred, oppression, and torture were over? When we are truly emancipated, then all of us are free from the shackles of oppression. Then we will truly know justice and joy. Back in Czechoslovakia 100 years ago, the Congregation of Liberal Religious Fellowship was founded by the Reverend Dr. Norbert Chopek and his wife Maya. Dr. Chopek, a brilliant writer and preacher, an avid singer and eager student, was born into his mother's Catholic faith in Bohemia. And he grew up in a home flavored by his father's history with the Moravian Brethren. Norbert Chopek grew up thirsting for a faith free from hypocrisy, a faith that would respect his mind and help him give voice to his convictions. As an adult, Chopek served Moravian and Baptist religious organizations, growing more religiously liberal with each passing year. He left Bohemia under government threat and accepted a call to serve a Baptist church in New York City. Until one day in 1919, when he wrote in his diary, quote, "I cannot be a Baptist anymore, even in compromise. The fire of new desires, new worlds is burning inside me," end quote. In 1921, inspired and empowered by connections he made with American Unitarians, Dr. Chopek and Maya returned with their children to their native land to build the new religious movement they dreamed of. He returned to the courageous and now independent people of a war-weary nation, finally emancipated to reclaim and renew their spirituality and culture after the war to end all wars. The people were hungry for a message of unity that reaches across all lines of difference. They longed for a community where their gifts and needs would be embraced, And so, in 1923, the Congregation of Liberal Religious Fellowship in Prague, Czechoslovakia, was founded as the community of their dreams. That religious movement caught fire in a nation alive with freedom and longing for change. The Prague congregation's liberating message and vibrant music drew thousands to worship. I think in 2 years, this church had 3,200 members. Yet, Reverend Dr. Chopek had a need to do something to unite the diverse and eager crowds. Chopek crafted a ceremony he described as, quote, a new experiment in symbolizing our liberty and brotherhood, end quote. He asked each congregation member to bring a flower to church from their garden, field, or roadside. Gathered in one vase, their combined beauty was dazzling, yet each blossom retained its uniqueness. And then, as Chopek wrote, quote, when they go home, each person is to take one flower just as it comes, without making any distinction where it came from and whom it represents. To confess that we accept each other without regard to class, race, or other distinction, acknowledging everybody as our friend, end quote. This compelling ritual of individual free will, the beauty of diversity, and the power of unity was held for the first time on the anniversary of Prague Fellowship's founding, June 24th, 1923. It became known as the Flower Ceremony, or Flower Communion, and the Prague Fellowship celebrated it annually as they continued to grow and thrive. However, World War II brought great troubles for Czechoslovakia, and in 1939, Maya Chopek came to the United States to raise funds to help war refugees. In 1940, she brought the flower ceremony with her to the Unitarian Church in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And soon the tradition spread to congregations across the country. Norbert Chopek stayed behind in Czechoslovakia to help his people. He nurtured their spirits with his message of their inherent worth and dignity. But the Nazis found his message dangerous and arrested him for treason in 1941. He was put to death in Dachau a year after his arrest. As we celebrate this ritual, let us consider this is not a mere historical reenactment of something that took place 100 years ago, but it is an affirmation of our continuity with the generations of struggle for ever-widening liberty. This flower ceremony, lovely though it is, isn't simply a diversion from ugly reality, but a gentle fierceness which proclaims that in the midst of sinister days, there is always the light of beauty. It is similar to the annual Pride festivals that take place in June. It's not just a parade, but the celebration of our personal pride in the uniqueness of each individual, and it is only by waving the rainbow flag and exhibiting our pride that we can come someday to a universal understanding of equality and equity, and thereby to justice for all. As Unitarian Universalists, we are here not to recall something that happened, but to remember and celebrate something that is happening, to remember, to put it back together again. And in that remembering, may we put ourselves back together again, each as a part of the body of this community, out of many, one. Today, we celebrate this ritual of solemnity and joy. May we reflect on and take joy and inspiration in our joint celebrations of the life and examples of good men in our lives, of the long ago emancipation and ongoing struggles of our sisters and brothers of color, and the uniqueness and diversity of our congregations and their members. May our history be for a blessing. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. If anybody has a comment or a reflection they would like to add, you're certainly welcome to do so. Tim has the microphone. So
Well, I'll
just-
start off. I forget. Suzanne and I have been to Prague, I don't know, 10 or 15 times, because it's right up the road from where I teach in Austria. But on one of our visits, we went to the church where Norbert Koppet was Chopek. I'm not good with Czech names. And you ought to see this place. It's humongous. I mean, it's like a big barn. I mean, because I'm from, it's like 40 feet in the air and wider than this place and way back. And you walk out the door and he's up standing on a platform, and he'd speak to thousands of people every time. And it's kind of moving, knowing he was one of us. You know, it's kind of interesting. So I just thought we'd pass it on. If you ever get to Prague, go see it. It's very, very interesting.
Thank you. I've heard that Prague is beautiful, and even though I lived in Europe for some time, never got there.
I call it the Paris of Europe, because it's Paris without the Parisians. and they've worked so hard since 1980, since the wall came down. I mean, stores are open. Actually, you can actually shop in the evenings and things like that. And it's a beautiful, the architecture is unbelievable. And the Jewish quarter is historic. I recommend it highly.
Now that we talk about Prague, I was there in 1965, I think it was. No, I'm sorry, 66. And it was totally run down. It was in bad shape. The paint was peeling off the buildings. It looked awful. And after the liberation of Czechoslovakia, what they have done to rebuild Prague, it is mind-boggling, and I would say is one of the most beautiful cities in Europe today.
Yeah, I agree. 110%.
I was struck by Chapek's relationship with the Moravian Church, because I had at one time belonged to the Moravian Church. My mother was born as a Schwenkfelder, which is an offshoot of Lutheranism. And when we moved from Norristown, Pennsylvania to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, there were no Schwenkfelder churches there. There was a Moravian church, so we joined that. And we were there for a very short time because my father, who was a lot more liberal in his religious views, wanted something more liberal. And then we went to the United Church of Christ, which is probably the liberal end of Protestantism. But it was interesting to me, his connection with the Moravians.
Another place I'd ask you to go is Winston-Salem, because I never knew about the Moravians till we went there, and it's kind of unbelievable.
Norbert Chapek probably, well, he was part of the tradition. One of the unique things that you find in Prague, at least what I find, is the fact that when you travel around Europe, you see all the memorials and all the war heroes everywhere. And when you go across the Charles Bridge in Prague, the only people that are featured are writers and poets, philosophers, and medical people. There's not one war hero anywhere celebrated.
That's a very peaceful notion.
Oh, sorry, good to see you. You're hiding behind this big guy.
While we're talking about Norbert Chopek, he is an interesting person, and he wrote the words and music to several of the hymns in our hymnal. I discovered when I was looking at this. I think Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, but I'm not absolutely positive of that. Yes, okay, good. So you could see the tone in that music too. So he was very accomplished.
last night, I happened to see on PBS a special on the Over the Rhine International Film Festival, which I did not know about, and will be coming up from July 6th to the 8th. But it is an international film festival that brings together stories that celebrate differences and honor our shared humanity. Using cinema as a tool to build empathy, we hope to create experiences for filmmakers and audiences that expand beyond the screen into the outside world and into real relationships. And two of the films that were shown from last year were they're shorts. One was of a young man, it's How Do I Tell the Baby, I think it's called, but it was a young man who has come home, maybe, I don't know, 8, maybe 9, and he's been told that he can no longer play with his best friend, and he is a man of, he's a young man of color, and that he's no longer permitted to come to their house or play with them, and his father has to tell him why, and that is in that film. And the other one was on a young woman who ran 50 miles, and she is a woman who was quite large, and she too was a woman of color, and doing it to bring some sense about social justice. But I was taken by one person who spoke in the film, and she said, I will not let them tell me that I am nobody. If I let them tell me and believe that I am nobody, but I must hang on that I am something, I am someone. And I thought about how many people have had that, you can't play with me, you can't go here, and how long does it take to internalize that? And so this idea of diversity in flowers is a good one for me to sort of think about a little bit.
Yeah, I'm really grateful to Sue and Suzanne for not just having our flower ceremony again, but to really anchor it in UU history and tradition. I don't think we do that enough, and I think part of a spiritual identity is tracing the threads from your history, of your beliefs. And I think we can anticipate next week with the General Assembly that we can go with eyes really wide open about the important history of UU. And even in the United States, more of our founding fathers were Unitarian than any other dimension. And yet now we see distortions of their beliefs and their principles. And I think not only do we need to reclaim that, but we really have to take responsibility to pass that on to the next generation to keep the UU tradition alive. So thanks for really anchoring us in that history.
Thank you.
Amen.
Tom. Thank you, Tom. I'm not a history person. I don't do my family history. I just can't get into it. But this I found extremely useful. I'm so grateful that Suzanne did the research to bring the information here. And we know it's important. Each congregation's history is important. And coming together in the UUA, it's also important. And it's not a perfect institution either, but it is working to correct the problems that it has created and that have been created by our society, and they're working very hard for this. So it's coming up this week. Please give them some thoughts as they make a lot of decisions, many decisions. My wife is going as a delegate, so I'm like, just go, and make good choices. So Suzanne is going. So MJ is our delegate. Okay, but she will be doing that from Zoom. Yeah, they've done a lot to make that work. Where was I? Okay, now is our chance to share our wealth with our congregation. And Michael will play some music entitled You Bring an Aster. And if you're a guest or visitor, your presence is all we need. You do not feel obligated to give anything. But we thank you ahead of time for what you are able to share with us. Thank you for sharing your financial resources with us. We appreciate it. It keeps the lights on. If anyone has a joy or concern that they would like to share with our congregation, please raise your hand and Tim will bring the microphone.
Today is a special day for us. It's our older daughter's 52nd birthday, and yesterday was our granddaughter's 12th birthday. They were born just about 40 years apart. We were chastised for the fact that we missed the 40th because we had made arrangements to go to Alaska, and our daughter was upset because she had 3 other children and we weren't there to help. And I said, well, but she didn't tell us she was pregnant, and we already had our tickets. So it was like, sorry, you'll have to make other arrangements. This was your doing.
But we get a forfeit today. So we got 2 birthdays and 2 fathers. So Papa gets to pay for everything, so at least I get 4 for.
So enjoy the celebration in your home this weekend.
I just was thinking a bit of good news about the Supreme Court. Looks like maybe somebody's getting a heart. Maybe it's like the Grinch. You remember? Because Roberts voted with the liberals. And wasn't there another one? There was a couple of things. Kavanaugh. So maybe there really is a Grinch, and his heart's going to be bigger than something? Or?
His heart grew 3 sizes.
Yeah. So I think that's good news.
Sizes too small.
Maybe there's hope. Maybe there's hope.
Yes, just sorrow. This morning, Paul Miles shared with me that his wife fell and is in the hospital. So he doesn't believe she's seriously hurt and that she'll be home soon. So keep her and Paul in your thoughts.
Good morning. When I leave here today, I will be going home, and my wife will be fixing me a Father's Day brunch, the most wonderful brunch in the world. It's Spam Eggs Benedict. You have to love Spam Eggs Benedict. Are you kidding? You can get it by the crate.
I thought they'd do away with that, the health advertising.
No, you haven't been to.
Oh, no, Hey, I'm from a farm. I've eaten more spam than you have. It's nice fun to open the can, though. It's got a neat can.
Just a thought, General. Just as we can't ignore trying to divide flowers from weeds, we can't ignore trying to separate spam from meat. So it is meat.
You asked for it, General. We're not so sure, Betsy, that your flower is not goldenrod. I'm not sure your flower is not goldenrod. Oh, Charo, that's right. I knew that wasn't. You convinced me it was. You're bad. Anybody else on the Zoom? Any? Nope, guess not.
Well, again, happy birthday, Dottie.
Yes, happy birthday. Many more.
So anyway, thank you for sharing your joys, your concerns. Know that they are on our hearts as well, and that we're paying attention. We care. Thank you. At this point, during our flower communion, we will reshare our flowers, and Suzanne will come around with the vase, and please take a flower to take home. Not the one you brought, even if you love it. Take a different one. Be reminded of what it takes to be community. You need some help? do have fun. And look at this, we came out even. I don't know how we did it, but that's pretty wonderful. Okay, we have a closing hymn and then very short closing words. So the hymn is "Oh Give Us Pleasure in the Flowers Today," number 64 in your hymn book.
Yes.
And
That's why I wanted this hymn, was because I like the words, but I don't love the melody. So.
Oh. Well, you can improvise if you like. We might not notice.
But stand and sing with me if you want, guys. I'll play through it once so you can kind of get a hang of the melody. It's kind of a strange melody, though, but the words are really great because it's Robert Frost. So. Oh, give us pleasure in the flowers today, and give us not to think so far away, as the uncertain harvest keep us here, all simply in the spring of the year. Oh, give us pleasure in the orchard wide, like nothing else by day, like ghosts by night, and make us happy in the happy bees, the swarm dilating round the perfect trees, and make us happy in the darting wide, like nothing else by day. Sorry, my bad. The meteor that thrusts in with me to live, and off a blossom mid-air stand still. For this is love, and nothing else is love, the wish reserved for God above, to sanctify what far ends evil, but which it only needs that we fulfill.
Yes, beautiful words, awkward melody.
Awkward melody, yes, awkward melody.
All right.
Maybe.
Let us leave this place today with joy in our hearts, with celebration of the unity and love in our congregational community, with honor for and celebration of the strong and loving men in our lives, with determination to work toward emancipation and freedom for all people. Amen. Two very quick announcements, sorry. I want to thank Betsy Anderson, who sent me an email last night and said, "I noticed you're on the list for hospitality. I'll be happy to do it." I knew I was on that list and was trying to figure out how to do it, so I'm very grateful for Betsy. And second, next Saturday is the Pride Parade and Festival. If anyone here wants to join me in the parade, I've been there before, so come on down. Give me a call. It'll be a lot of fun. Thank you.